Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you back, or for the first time, to We'll Bring the Popcorn, your favorite film and TV podcast. So I think we're just going to jump straight into it this week with the movie that's breaking the internet right now. We're not going to touch on the stuff they're doing, but it's just losing their minds over this film, and that, of course, is James Gunn's Superman, the brand new DCU kind of kickoff film. We had Creature Commandos that technically kicked it off, but now we've got our first feature film that's part of the DCU. And he did things a little differently with this. This is a Superman film that feels like a comic book brought to life. Like, touch on it briefly. Man of Steel gave us a grittier, darker, more serious Superman, and this is light and airy and funny and goofy and silly. But you got more layers with this Superman because David, I will say he was fantastic. Like so we didn't get as much of his Clark, but his Superman was layered. You got him emotional. You got him struggling to figure out exactly kind of who he still wants to be, because this isn't an origin story. We start with Superman at the 3-year mark. He's been Superman. He's been out to the world for 3 years now, and he's lost his first battle, and he doesn't really know how to handle that, and it kicks off from there. But I had a lot of fun with this. This was a bright, colorful, fun comic book movie.
Yeah, this was unapologetic about the fact that it was a comic book movie, and that was kind of the tone that you feel throughout the film. Like, it's one that embraces the nuances of a comic book story, right? So obviously, there's a very huge vocal portion of the internet that seems to take umbrage with anything comic book related, period. But you have, everybody calls them the Snyder Bros, who are like super hardcore. Well, if it's not a Zack Snyder version of this, I have no interest in seeing it. Just relax. Go touch some grass or something. You know what I mean? Talk to a girl. I don't know what to tell you, but like, it's so divisive unnecessarily for this, and I get it. There's an element of superhero fatigue in a lot of cinema right now going on, like, obviously with Marvel being such an up and down, roller coaster that they've been on when they were the gold standard for a while, and DC just completely lost a lot of favor with a lot of people with the way they've handled a lot of these movies, and quite frankly, Zack Snyder's take on them were a big reason why, like, they kind of fell off a little bit creatively too. So it's kind of a you're darned if you do, darned if you don't situation. But to get that out of the way, on its own merits, this film was fun. We had a good time with it. It has, like you said, it has layers, because you get this version of Superman who, like you said, this isn't an origin story. It's not him just finding out he's Superman and how to deal with that. You jump past all of that to where he's in action and everybody knows, and metahumans are very much a thing in this world that, people will have very strong opinions on. And it's kind of the nature of the DC comic universe, right? There's a portion of humans, obviously led by Lex Luthor, who in this film is played brilliantly by Nicholas Hoult, I may add. Like, he's a fantastic Lex Luthor, and they're trying to stop metahumans, but in Luthor's case, specifically Superman, because he feels like Superman is the pinnacle of what a metahuman is, and is on this vendetta to turn the world against metahumans, obviously for his own nefarious means and benefits. But that's kind of the through line throughout this whole film, is Luthor's vendetta against Superman in particular, not just all metahumans, but specifically Superman, which is a big thing in their comic book history, where, Superman and Lex Luthor, they're kind of like Batman and the Joker of, Superman's world, right? So it's like the yin and the yang of the two. And you get kind of this nuanced type of Superman who is still very young and figuring himself out, but doesn't know how to handle the setbacks that he has in this loss. Like, he kind of goes through this whole identity crisis where people are questioning him because he involves himself in this international conflict that, goes into this whole kind of political, like, is Superman really American, or is he, an alien who represents everybody but happens to have his origins in America? And I do think they do a fine line of walking that line while having the political commentary. And I want you to jump back in here in a minute, but the people that think that comic books can't be political have never read a comic in their life. Comic books are riddled with political stories throughout their entire run. So if you're one of those people who are like, I just need politics out of my comics, you've never read a comic book then.
Like, have you
It's
seen
ridiculous.
Captain America punching Hitler?
Right.
Have you ever read an X-Men comic and know exactly what's at the core of the X-Men? It's
Correct.
extremely political. Yeah, and then Superman as well. Like, heck, his tagline about the American way was a political thing that was done during the war to try to bring people, like in real life, the World War II that was going on, to get people like, hey, be proud of being an American and support us through the war. That was added to Superman because of a war that was happening. So comics, Superman, all these characters have been political pretty much since the beginning.
Right.
Like, say, those who say, I hate the word. I don't even want to say the word calling Superman woke.
Yeah.
I have that word muted on every social media
so
platform.
ridiculous.
I hate that word because it makes zero sense on anything. And this isn't it. This is a true to the character. Like, there's some stuff it does do wrong that I didn't care for that we'll get to in a little bit, but it does a lot right. Like I said, David Cornsweet was fantastic as Superman. We did get those layers. I really love the sequence between him and Lois in the apartment where he agrees, because they make a joke that, Clark's always getting an interview with Superman. It's kind of getting a little fishy that you're talking to Superman so much. Like, okay, you can interview Superman. And that really showed off to us just how different this Superman was going to be, because he gets highly emotional. He gets very guarded. He goes kind of on an attack. Like, he's the superhero, the just great superhero, but he's emotional, and it's shown his human side because he's a super-powered alien who was sent to Earth with, depending on how they change and work with that origin stuff, and that plays in here as well, exactly what the message is from his parents and why he was sent to Earth, but he was raised by humans, so he has both of those elements, and there's a lot of controversy about his parents. We've grown up in the country, we've been around, various, from the over the top to the, like, can't even tell that they grew up in the country. I love the parents. It showed emotion. It showed parents who cared about their son. He's not Superman to them. He's Clark.
Right.
Our little boy.
Yeah.
And that's what I really loved about the parents. It was played really well. You have, Ma Kent just screaming at the phone on speakerphone because, let's face it, a lot of people over 60 and 70 trying to use technology, it goes like that most of the time. So I really enjoyed it. I kind of wanted more of them. We got just a little bit of it, which was fun. But, and as you said, Nicholas Hoult was fantastic as Lex. We got a more manic, kind of just genius Lex, because we've got the more, I don't even know what you would call Jesse Eisenberg's Lex. He was maniacal, but you didn't really get to see the genius side as much of that, even though he creates Doomsday and all that other stuff that it went into. This one shows just how Lex has a grip of people and technology and how he has this control, because there's even scenes where he's knocking stuff over and people are scrambling to pick it up, like just showing, you may think it's just a funny throwaway, but it's to show that grip, that strength, that power that Lex has over people. And I would put Nicholas Holt's performance akin to like Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville, because he had one of the best Lex Luthors out there, and we got, instead of LexCorp, we have Luthor Corp, which I agree with James Gunn. It makes more sense that the last name is the name on the company instead of the first name, because not many people use their first names. If they're putting a business, it's the last name so that you know who they are. And it also opens up if we're going to have Lionel show up maybe in a sequel or something else. But I really enjoyed Nicholas Hoult. He was kind of really kind of crazy over the top, but controlled, but also a few loose ends and a wire's loose where he's like just kind of at the edge of cracking, and we get to see that crack happen as well. But I also want to give some props to Rachel Brosnahan, who was a fantastic Lois. Like, she was really so good. We didn't get as much of the Lois, like, kind of, we've got a little bit more of the reporter doing stories and stuff. We got plenty of stories and stuff with it. I would like to see a little bit more Lois that's not flying a spaceship and being, Lois Lane and stuff. But I still think there was a great dynamic, because we're dealing with the part with this movie that, Lois knows who Clark is, knows she's Superman. they're dating, but they're not really sure about the relationship and stuff, and you've got that going on. I just love the dynamic between those two. Like, they were really solid playing off of each other, and they, like, David and Rachel were both really fantastic as our new Lois and Clark. Like, it was really fun watching them on screen.
Yeah, there was a lot of chemistry with them. I would agree with that. And you have this, this through line of Lex trying to stop at all ends to, not only stop Superman, but he's got his own agenda too about, carving out his own niche for himself on this land of Janapur. That's kind of a side story, but also ties directly into the main story kind of thing, where he's, creating this distraction of stopping Superman, which he very much wants to do, but also having his own business, his evil genius businessman, aspirations at the same time. It's like working hand in hand. And that goes to show some of the genius in him, because he's, creating this political rift using Superman to advance his own means while also taking down Superman. So he's not just hyper-focused and tunnel vision on taking Superman down. He's also doing it to benefit himself and his company as well, which I think was such a cool way of like presenting that, because, so many of these are just hyper-focused on stopping the one character. Our whole agenda is to stop you and take you down kind of thing. And it was pretty cool to see that kind of turn just a little bit. But yeah, man, there was so much fun in this. Like, you have these things that, they're the kaiju that they incorporate into this to kind of give that big monster feel to it, that is used as a vehicle to help introduce the Justice Gang, which is just
Nathan Fillion and his bowl cut.
Oh man, Nathan Fillion! I'm so excited to see him in the Lantern series after seeing him in this, because he does such a good smug Guy Gardner, Green Lantern here, that I'm really excited to see what he does in the Lantern.
He already
series.
said in an interview he dropped more F-bombs
yes.
in the Lantern series, and he probably has his entire career.
Which has
me
very excited.
Like, all right, that's going to be fun.
It's so funny because everybody was kind of poking fun at the haircut, but then I was like, you guys have never seen Guy Gardner in the comics.
That's a comic
Like, if you go back
Guy
and watch
Gardner
the old
haircut.
Green Lantern series, like the animated series with the Green Lanterns, it literally looks like Nathan Fillion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think they could have been more spot on with that casting, which is so funny.
Yeah,
But
he was great because he was cocky, he was arrogant, and Nathan Fillion does that really well, which I've loved watching his interviews too, because people are saying, like, they'll talk about how Guy Gardner's just a jerk and all this other stuff, and like, you do such a great what are you trying to say?
Yeah,
like, he knows, but he's poking
cheek.
Fun at him. Like, what are you trying to say about me?
He's so good, man. But in this instance, you get the introduction of the Justice Gang, which is a very funny name in its own. Just, poking fun at the fact that people are already talking about Justice League and all this other stuff. Like, these guys are the Justice Gang, and in this movie, it's Guy Gardner as a Green Lantern. You have Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl, and then you have Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific, who, in my opinion, had probably the best coming out moment.
He steals a lot of scenes
in this entire film. Like, he is terrific, for lack of a better term. But I love this scene with them trying to go to the pocket dimension and him protecting Lois with that bubble of protection and just going off and fighting all of these people. It was just such a cool and well shot scene that I think James Gunn is very underrated at doing these type of over the top superhero action scenes, because it felt very, I hate to say it, but it's the one point of reference we have for him as far as comic book movies go. It felt very Guardians of the Galaxy-esque with this in its action, which is a good thing. Mm-hmm. And it just shows Mr. Terrific just going off and fighting with the help of his, terrific bots and all of that stuff. And he had a really fun moment. But I want to talk a little bit about, I know we're kind of all over the place with this because there's just so much going on. This film was really just a go.
That's a good thing, but a bad thing for this movie that we'll talk about. It is breakneck pace.
It was very fast paced with a lot going on, a lot to keep up with, which I kind of appreciate. But we'll get to that in a minute. But I do want to highlight and show some love to the Justice Gang's headquarters, which was our Cincinnati Union Terminal, which was the inspiration for the Justice League that you see in the comics, the iconic building that the Justice League looked like. It is directly based off the Cincinnati Union Terminal at the Museum Center, and they filmed the film here, and it's awesome to see that building.
I love that. I said, "Hi, it's a Union
You
Terminal."
felt everybody in our theater just kind of like, it wasn't like a stand up and cheer moment, but you felt everybody just kind of.
It's like a proud moment
shit,
for everybody in this area.
And,
like, hey, it's Union Terminal.
Yes. You have the beautiful like photo or like the shot from the garden up to the building that they kept and really didn't alter in it. And
Other
it was
than adding Hall of Justice.
Well, I mean, you had to add the name, obviously, but like the building was untouched as far as that goes.
I didn't think we were going to see inside because a lot of time it was used in the CW series as well, briefly,
very briefly.
But you didn't go inside. When we went inside, it was something else. They actually filmed inside and used with kind of minimal changes the inside of Union Terminal as well, which was great to see. Like, because I was expecting, we'll get an exterior shot and then it'll look completely different. It'll be like this big, cold kind of sci-fi corporate look. No, it was
literally
Union
how
Terminal
that building
inside.
looks like on the inside.
We have that gigantic mural, the bright yellows. It's a big Art Deco building. It's a beautiful building. And I'm glad it got shown off really well in the movie.
All of that is very much in this film. And if you see the film and if you're curious about it, please come to Cincinnati. Go to the Union Terminal, the Museum Center. It's awesome. It's a beautiful building. It's a really cool museum to go through. And
got the OmniMax, so you've got big dome that you can watch educational films and stuff on, which we tried to get a Twister screening on there, and it didn't happen. We didn't get invited to the Superman screening there. We won't hold it against him because we still love the place. He's going to hold it against him. So
I will hold a grudge forever.
But yeah, it would have been nice to be invited to that. But I'm curious how they did the screening there as well, because I don't know if they did the OmniMax or if they just set up like a portable screen or something and did something there. But cool. I love seeing that. Like it has been, like you said, through the comics when it was introduced, its Art Deco style was clearly referenced. It was said it was referenced, that it was going to be it, and they stuck to like showing it and having it be that. So hopefully we get a Superman sequel or something, we get a little bit more. Even we get a Justice League movie, hopefully we see it again in there. So it's just kind of that proud moment for everyone in the area. Like, hey, I've been there with my kids. I've been there as a kid. It's a great museum and a great place. It's beautifully designed, but it's just awesome to see, like, all right, yeah, it's officially the Hall of Justice in the DCU now.
Getting some cinematic love, which hopefully with future projects they utilize that space again, come back through and film, because it wasn't the only place in the city where they did film for this. They did film some stuff downtown that they did use. I was trying to keep an eye out for some of the downtown fighting stuff to see if I kind of recognized the layout of a street or something, but couldn't really pick it up too much. But I know they did film down by like the Red Stadium and down in that area. I kind of want to go back again and watch it and see if I could pick up on some of the.
It's kind of a mashup because they did a lot of it in Cleveland,
also,
and they mashed up with Cincinnati and a few other places as well. So Metropolis is a big mashup of several different cities, because we did kind of get the Cincinnati skyline a little bit, but we also got the Cleveland skyline. Like it's a pretty big mashup of a few cities.
And of course, they used the Guardians ballpark for the stadium fight.
Great American Ballpark.
Bad move, James Gunn. No, I'm just kidding. It is, I think, aesthetically a nice.
You could have had Superman pick up one of the water wheels at the Great American Bar, smokestack from Great American Ballpark, and beat the engineer with it. That would have been perfect.
Yeah, it would have been great timing for it. But
just call us for the Superman 2. Like, we got
ideas. We got ideas for days. But yeah, getting back to the film, like we're going through all of this stuff. Like I said, we talked about characters that we love, and we've gotten this far into the review, and we haven't talked about what a lot of people are really raving about the film coming out of it. And that's Crypto, who is, the dog that is following Superman around and is just chaos personified.
Absolute chaos.
In this film. It's like your agent of chaos is Crypto, who has some awesome moments where they just kind of steal the show in this film. And it's just so fun because, coming out of it, everybody's like, oh, he's the goodest boy now. Like, he's the best boy. And I love seeing all the different popcorn buckets where there's one with him holding up an actual, like a square canister for popcorn, and then you've got a literal dog bowl as like a popcorn bucket too. I love seeing some of the integration.
I asked my kids, "Do you want to eat out of the
dog bowl?"
Out of the dog bowl? And no.
That was funny. I loved seeing your daughter's reaction to this film too, because it was a lot of fun. And Crypto was a super big highlight in it, and we get a couple fun cameos too. Like we get, I don't want to spoil that for people who haven't gone and seen it, but There's a couple other DC cameos that you get in this film very briefly, but
and Marvel cameos.
They leave a little bit of a mark, and it's fun to see where they're going to be involved in it going forward. But it was kind of a, hey, we're tying into this, but we're introducing this character that's going to be heavily featured in a film next year. If you know anything about what's coming up for DC, that's kind of your wink and a nod for what's coming up. But yeah, man, it was a ton of fun. Like it was a fun story about like Superman kind of just learning, like he's still learning who he is as a hero, and that's a very big, a very big message coming out of this film is like him learning how to be a hero, him leaning into his humanity that drives a lot of the decisions that he makes. And it's not just on this all-powerful alien that knows better than everybody. It's from his real shared, like his real experience, human experiences, on top of a message of inspiration that he gets from his parents that, they play with in an interesting way in this movie too. But it's his purpose on the planet. And it's a really cool, like, way of showing that heart to Superman that I think they do a really good job of capturing here.
Yeah, and while we've shown a lot of praise and stuff for the movie, I think we do need to talk about a few items that didn't work for us. So for me, like, we briefly touched on it here. It is a breakneck pace. Like, I enjoyed it. It didn't really bother me that much, but it didn't leave a whole lot of time to breathe. It's just going from one piece to another, to another, to another. And even though I enjoyed it, it's very comic booky. So if you're not prepared for that, it could throw you off a little, because you have a kaiju that starts off as a baby and goes, becomes really huge and stuff, which is very different than we haven't really, I mean, we've had Doomsday and other type of creatures show up, but we really haven't had like a kaiju that he has to fight. And then it does feel like we maybe have one too many characters in this movie, because you do have a ton, because you have Guy Gardner, you have Hawkgirl, you have Mr. Terrific, you get Lex, you get Cat Grant, you get Lois, you get Jimmy, you get Perry, you get a few other people in like the bullpen of the newspaper that get tossed. So there's a lot of characters that are tossed in this movie. Like, I didn't hate it, but it does feel like, all right, we've got a lot jam-packed in here. Like, we've got 10, 15 different characters that you're kind of trying to get names of and follow and have, and then you add in Metamorpho, and you add in Crypto, and then you have just the girlfriend of Lex. Like, you've got a lot of different characters to try to flesh out a little bit and, like, just follow around a little bit, see who's Lex going, because Jimmy's got his side stories with women and all this other stuff, and you have Lois and Clark's story, and they have, Superman is Clark and Superman is Superman, and you get everything with the Justice Gang and all that. It's like, it can be a little overwhelming when you have that breakneck pace with that many characters.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from with that, but I want to kind of counter it a little bit, and this is where it's a darned if you do, darned if you don't situation, right? Well, how often do you hear people talk about, like, logic in, like, having some kind of natural logic in a non-natural story, right? So obviously these superheroes with superpowers, not a real thing, right? It's a fantastical element of it. But how often do you hear, well, you have this issue that Superman's dealing with in Metropolis, why is nobody helping him? Why is nobody coming through if you know these characters exist and why they're not involved? So it's one of those, like, I can appreciate the inclusion of these characters because they do exist. They are around in this area. They are in this city, and they can help. So I think they do a fine job of keeping those characters around and giving you just a little bit of a teaser into who they are and what they're about, whilst still keeping the focus on Superman. But you have these people around it, and that kind of makes sense for the story that they're telling, right? It's like, you need to know that these characters exist, and it's not just Superman on an island by himself in this major metropolitan city, right?
Especially when you're jumping 3 years into him being Superman. By now, he's had to have ran into other people.
And they make it clear that the world knows that metahumans exist and that Superman's not the only one. So they kind of set you up for that expectation at the beginning of the film that it's like, hey, the world knows about metahumans now. Obviously, that means Superman's not the only one. So they set that expectation up for you literally at the beginning of the film, and they say the world knows about these people are around. So it makes sense for these people to be involved. Because so often you see it, and Marvel's terrible about this in some ways, where it's just like, oh, this is a Captain America story. Well, Captain's got one or two people that can help him. where you hear it all the time coming out of these stories. Well, where's X, Y, and Z that he knows he can lean on if this was that real of a threat in a real situation? It's like, oh, they're just screwing off doing something else. Well, that's not really an acceptable answer here when you're talking about the needs of a superhero. So I get where you're coming from there. Like, it does feel like it's a lot, but I think they did a fine job of walking the line of having these people around, knowing they're existing, and giving you just a little bit of a taste of these people, because, like you said, this isn't an origin story of him just meeting these people and you're slowly introducing to him. He's been at it for a couple years, and these people are all established in his life. So having them around and just giving you a little bit of insight into all of them, I think, is the smartest way to write it and the way to do it. So I kind of see what you're saying, but I think the way they handle it makes a ton of sense given the story that they were telling.
It wasn't something I necessarily had a problem with. It's one I can see a
Other
general
people,
audience.
sure.
Like, if you're not a comic book fan, this could be overwhelming at times to you because of how many characters you have. Trying to look at that other perspective of those who may not know Superman that well, may not be a huge comic book, but they want to go see something big, action-packed. It can be a little overwhelming with just how many. But like I said, it makes sense. Guy Gardner, Superman going back and forth and going at each other where he's not afraid. And, there's some people picking on kind of how much weaker Superman is in this, but it adds that humanity to him. Like, he's not fully indestructible. We know all the different ways that kryptonite and the different colors affect him, and we see it used in here, but he has some knockdown, drag-out fights where he's going against other beings that are just as powerful as he is. So he's going to be a little hurt and damaged and stuff. So I didn't have a problem with that, but that's another one I look at as some people may say. We're seeing a weaker Superman. He's still strong. We get to see some great battles with him and you get to see him throw down and fight, but it is a little bit weaker Superman, but that wasn't a problem for me. Like, this is, again, my brain going to what the internet is complaining about. Sure. That wasn't a complaint to me, because a big point of this Superman and seeing this Superman was to see his humanity more than his alien side, his indestructibleness. It was showing that he's still, like, he grew up here. He grew up as a human. He has struggles. He's relatable because he feels like he's someone that you can feel sympathy for, that you're not just, like, seeing him as this undestructible god. He's a human being that just happens to be super powered.
Right.
Human being. Like,
yeah, you know what I mean. Has human traits. Like, it's... I do think they do a good job of walking that line in this movie. And like you said, I appreciate that he's not this indestructible fighting force, because he never really was in the comics either. Like, he's always going up against an adversary that can push him to his limits. And I think he's still just new enough at being Superman, being 3 years in, to still kind of learning what his limits are. Like, you literally get people with powers on par of Superman because of, Lex Luthor having studied Superman as long as he has, and literally knowing, like, half the film is about him knowing how to counter-fight Superman because he studied him so well.
1A.
Right. He has, like, all these programmed built-in counter-strikes for everything that Superman can do, and that just shows some of the genius of Luthor in this. Like, he's so obsessed with him, he knows his fighting style in and out and knows the perfect way to counterbalance that. Like, that's what you want from a villain. Like, you want them to be able to match it, because it's boring if it's just, oh, this guy's coming to fight and Superman can take him out in one punch and we're done and that's it. Like, if you want to throw in that logic, you could argue that the Flash is probably one of the most OP superheroes of all time, just because he's so quick, and the literal science behind it goes he would pulverize somebody in 2 seconds.
I think that's why we really haven't had a Superman video game in such a long time, because it's a hard character to figure out. Like, all right, he is impenetrable to everything. He's stronger than everything. He's faster than everything. He flies. He's got heat vision. He's got his breath. He's got his hearing, which we didn't really get the hearing in here. It didn't bother me that he wasn't trying to super listen to everything. We got his breath. We got his eyes. We've got his strength and his flying. But I said with the video game, like, it's, how do you take somebody who is so incredibly overpowered and put it in a way that it feels like, okay, when they get knocked down, or is there, how could there be a real threat to a guy who could lift a planet and stuff like that? And so I think James Gunn did a good job with that in this film, of showing, Yeah, he's still kind of learning. His power is based on the sun, so if he doesn't have the sun, he's a bit weaker. He's still new, but he's not brand new, so he's still making mistakes, and that's what this film is about. Like he's in 3 years in, this is the first time he's ever lost a fight. So you're seeing the broken Superman. You're seeing the Superman that's struggling because I've never lost before. I've never had someone who's been able to match me before. How do I deal with that emotionally, physically, everything else? And I think from the complaints that we've seen online, I don't think it's a problem with this movie. I think it actually helps make Superman feel much more like a real character, a real person than a god. See, I think I'm good with everything there. That it can be a bit silly. Like
Sure.
if you're not in there to just take in a full comic book movie, and we say this because comic books can be serious.
Sure.
They can be goofy and silly. Pretty much everything that happened in this movie has happened in a Superman comic in a way, like the humor, the silliness of that. But I can see it putting a few people off. Like Crypto can be a bit over the top at times with how they're doing. Some of the jokes and humor can be very silly and over the top with it. There's one sequence where he punches somebody and the teeth bounce off of. He knocks out teeth and it bounces off of the camera. That can be a bit silly. That's kind of breaking the fourth wall a little bit on there. But I had fun with the silliness. Like this is not a dark, brooding Snyderverse film. This is a bright, colorful comic book movie that's setting a new direction. You can't sit here and want something after we had that universe try with, 6 different films between. Well, I mean, you had 2 Wonder Woman, 2 Aquaman, you had Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, The Flash. So you had about 8 films in that universe that was all very dark, brooding, and serious. We're going in a different direction that is more akin to the comics of the bright and colorful. It still has some seriousness to it.
Sure.
But it does stay in the direction of the silliness, which I was fine with, but I can see some people feeling it's a little too silly at times. But I had fun. Like it's something that if you can go in without your preconceived notions on what you want it to be and let it be what it is, you can have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like I said, we started at the very beginning of this saying, like, it's a comic book movie that's unapologetically a comic book type movie. Like, all of the praise that I've seen about this film coming out of it echoes that exact same sentiment. Like, it feels like it's comic book, coded. Like, it feels like it's something that I would read on a page and you're putting it in motion in real life. And that's where you see the people that are really loving comics and fans of comic books that are passionate about the genre are really loving this. And the people that don't like it are not liking it for different reasons. Either you were a super hardcore fan of the Snyder stuff, and I didn't hate the Snyderverse stuff as much as a lot of people did.
No, I enjoyed it.
I wasn't as hardcore as into it as other people were as well, but this has never once tried to compare itself to that, and you see it coming through that it's like a brighter take on it, a more optimistic look at a superhero film. And the one thing that I really appreciate about what James Gunn is trying to do so far, because there was a lot of things hinging on this being very successful, and I have not had a chance or had the desire to look at the box office trends and
domestically
like
right now. It's looking about 125 to 150 million domestically.
Fantastic.
It's looking to 250 to maybe even up to possibly 300, depending on how it goes. Like word of mouth has been so positive that they said ticket sales have increased globally. So they haven't really, at the time of our recording here, they haven't released everything, but right now they're projected. It's made over 100 million domestically already. So
Sure.
it's done fairly well.
I love that, and I love to see that. And it's, and I don't know where I was going with that, but like it's one of those things, like, give it a chance. Just give it a chance, because whatever you think it's going to be, or whatever you think you saw from the trailers, it's so much better than what the trailers gave us, in my opinion. Like, it's a much, much better film in that sense. Like, it has heart, it has humor, it has, a good story across. Like, people that go into it with these preconceived notions, like, oh, it's going to be political and I don't want that. And that's fine. Like, you don't have to, but stop watching comic book movies if you don't want political messages in your comic book movies, because it's literally all about
what isn't political anymore, even though I hate politics.
Yeah, everything's
what isn't political anymore?
Everything's politicized at this point, and it's so much fun. But the one thing I'm appreciating that James Gunn is talking about tonally from his stories is he's leaving, like, he really wanted to do all hands on the Superman film, but you're going to see in future projects, like, they're going to be tonally different from each other, and it's not going to be one note across all of the films, which, for lack of a better term, the Snyder films were, like you said, in that dark, brooding, a little bit of humor mixed in here and there, just a splash of it to not be so serious that it's almost emo to a point, but, like, it's going to be tonally different in every one of them. And he's come out and said that. He's like, hey, we wanted this Superman film to be positive and optimistic and bright and colorful. They're coming right back with a Clayface film that we've talked about before that's going to be a body horror, dark tonal film.
Rated R. He's
letting these people that are creating these films in this universe tell the style of stories that they want to tell, because there are other DC comic properties that do, skew on the darker side and the more grittier, darker, much more serious tones, and they're going to have opportunities for those stories too, and they can all intertwine and work together and make ways. And I'm not going to lie, man, based on what we've gotten from Superman, I think the future is a little bit brighter for DC at this point based on what we have kicking off for it here, because, like you said, Superman is supposed to be the cheesy cookie cutter, like Captain America-esque equivalent in the DC universe, obviously significantly stronger than Cap was, but having that same heart where they have that strong moral, base where they're still going to mess up and make mistakes, but they learn and they grow. And, that's kind of at the heart of what this is. And, you're going to have your time for your darker and grittier stories. Those are coming. Like, you're going to get a variety.
Eventually we'll get the Batman Part 2.
Sure. In 2040, when, Robert Pattinson can actually be Batman Beyond, it might just be Batman 2, Batman Beyond at that point, where he's old man Bruce Wayne, but that's neither here nor there, but that's not really a James Gunn holdup at that point. But I'm excited for the future of DC, and I was hoping that would be the case when I came out of this, because you and I were both very, for lack of a better, apprehensive going into this film. We're like, man, I really want this to do well, because I really think that if this is successful, it's going to push Marvel to be, I think it'll push Marvel to start upping their game a little bit too.
Yeah, if DC does well, that helps Marvel, because they have to look at it and realize, okay, we got to do better. We got to change things up. We have to match what they're throwing out there. It's good for them to both be good at the same time.
Healthy competition is what we all want and what we all deserve as fans of comics. You don't have to be tribalistic from one to the other. That's very much a thing in comic books, where you're either heavy. I love both, because I love the genre and I love, the intricacies and the storytelling. So they have very strong similarities, but also very strong differences too. And I like it, and I can appreciate them both for what they are. But yeah, man, give the, like, whatever you think you've heard or read about this movie, go form your own opinion. We can't stress that enough. We talk about it all the time here, where we don't go and really look at reviews before going and seeing a film. One, we try to see films as early as we possibly can, just because we don't want to be flooded with spoilers and reviews and all this other negative stigma around a film that can hinder our experience going to see it. But we still want to go form our own opinions. We see buzz about films that are like, oh, I'm not hearing the best things about this. And then we go and we're like, yeah, it was justified. Or, man, what are these people talking about? Like, we go and form our own opinions, and that's what we do here. Yeah, a lot of times we do tend to skew more towards the positive side, and TikTok loves telling us about that. Shout out to the people that watch our TikTok videos. But,
hi, trolls.
Yeah, love you too. But we tend to find that we get more entertainment out of our films by not going with these preconceived notions, like going in with a clear mind and an open mind, and kind of absorbing the tales of what they were. Like we said, there were some things that didn't work very well with Superman, but there were a lot that did. And like, obviously we've been praising the film. I'm not going to give it a 10. We'll get to our ranking here in a second, but I'm not going to give it a 10, but I'm not going to give it a 5. Like, some people are like, oh, this movie was trash. Like, did you go see it? Like, what's
the worst Superman movie ever made? No, if you're being objective, no, it's not.
No, Superman 3, for the love of God.
3 and 4.
Three,
Like,
four
how can
was
you put
terrible,
anything
too.
below
Yeah,
3
like,
and Superman 3 and
it
4?
ain't that. Like, don't worry about that. But like, we try to talk about the things that we appreciate about a film coming out of it, and we'll knock it if there's things we didn't like about it. But I'm struggling to find a ton of things that I really disliked about the film, honestly, because it's subjectively to me really solid.
Yeah, and they said, we've always pushed to make up your own mind with stuff. If you had interest to see it, don't let one negative review or the toxicity online keep you from seeing something, because you could miss out on something that you could really have a lot of fun with. There's some people who will hate things no matter what because of their political views or their views on other stuff that they're just going to hate. Yeah. If you had any interest, go check it out. You have potential to have a lot of fun with it. No one is ever going to like everything 100%. Nothing in this world is 100% loved, liked, or praised. It's just never going to happen.
Right.
Doesn't matter what it is. There's nothing that's 100%. Go have fun with it. It's a fun superhero movie. Like I said, I could sit here and nitpick through some other things, like the pocket dimension was a little corny.
Sure, of course it was.
And very underwhelming, because you kind of had Lex had the upper hand at one point and did a very typical villain stuff like, oh, I want to finish you off, but I'm just going to leave you here for a little bit and I'm going to go off. Like, you had very easy ways that Lex could have been the victor in this movie, but it's the very typical, well, I'm this too proud of a villain to have it go out this way and stuff. I got to let my plans fully go through before I go through with my final plan and stuff. Like, there's some corniness with the story in that way, with the whole political stuff like that. Like, some stuff was just all right, but the story was okay. The core part of David as Superman, as Nick as Lex, Rachel as Lois, that works so well that you had just so much fun with them being the characters. That the few shortcomings of the story and how they handled some things didn't really matter, because I was having so much fun with it.
Yeah, and at that point, it's just it all comes down to preference, like you said. Like, there's things we could take the time to really dive in and nitpick about the film that maybe could have been tweaked a little bit here and there. But at the end of the day, for us, it's not something that really takes away from our total enjoyment of the film. And with the message that it tells, and the overall presentation of these characters in this story was done in such a wonderful way that I think far significantly outweighs any nitpicking we can do about it. It's going to keep us from giving it a perfect score, obviously, and it'll probably knock it down just a little bit for us, but I think it's much better and much more positive for us to talk about the things that did work about the movie for us. We can be realistic about some of the things that could have been tweaked here or there, done a little bit better, but I don't think that's as productive, and we like to talk about positive things as opposed to just leaning into so much negativity, which is like 99.9% of the internet anyway. We don't like to do that. If a film is so bad that the negatives far outweigh the positives, we talk about that too. Go see how much we've skewered a film like Madam Web, how much we just couldn't stand that film.
I can't even remember the name anymore, the Mark Wahlberg Flight film that I've tried to block from my memory.
Completely forgot it existed.
Go watch that review and see what we thought of it. We laid into it. Like, we're not here shilling or hyping up. Like, we're being realistic as comic book fans of this genre, of action, everything else. Like, it had far more positives than it did negatives.
Yeah, and that's going to go into our rankings that we're getting ready to jump into when we finally rate this film like we always do every week. And I think that, like we said, those positives are going to so outweigh the negatives here that it's going to lean into us giving it a positive score. So in the end, Superman, the new James Gunn film, it is a really fun take on a comic book film that's unapologetically a comic book film, right? It's a fun, fast, very fast-paced film about, Superman, not an origin story, but it's him still learning and making mistakes and finding out who he is and having his humanity help propel him forward to become the best version of himself. And I think that's the heart and the strong point of the story. There's phenomenal performances throughout this. The writing overall was really, really solid, really above average. I'm going to give Superman an 8.5. Like, it holds up that well for me. There are things that I can nitpick about that'll take it down a little bit for me. Like you said, it could have taken a little bit of a breath here and there. Some of the use of, like, the pocket dimension and other things like that felt a little forced and a little stifled. Like, it didn't work the best for me. And some of the, like the whole scenes in the pocket dimension, probably not the best in the film, but it takes it down a little bit for me. But at the heart of it, man, you get Superman in his splendor as, the do-gooder superhero, kind of Captain America equivalent of the DC universe here, where, he's the beacon of hope and positivity and things that worked so well in this film. I'm giving it an 8.5 for that reason. Like you said, it's not a perfect movie, but it is so much fun that the positives of this movie far outweigh any little nitpicks I could have for it.
Yeah, Superman is a bright, bold, colorful, fun comic book movie that is a comic book movie. It's not trying to fully ground him in reality. It's taking the absurdness and the craziness and the overtopness that is most comic book stories and going with it. And it works really well. David is fantastic as Superman. We didn't get as much of his Clark as I would like to see. I would like to see a little bit more of his Clark, because you did kind of get the bumbling bit of Clark, and we get a little more lore with how people don't recognize him and everything else too. Rachel was fantastic as Lois. Nicholas Hoult was a great Lex. I want to see more of him. It was a fun movie. It does have some problems. Like I said, you mentioned breakneck pace, maybe a little too many characters thrown in there at times. Could be you just didn't allow all of them to get their moment. It's like Hawkgirl. I think she got kind of the shorter end of the straw on this. She didn't get as much to do in this film, and you had some others like Cat Grant and others that was just kind of there to say the characters there. But yeah, it's a big, bold, fun comic book movie that I'm giving an 8.5 as well. Like it had a few issues with the story, had a few issues with its pacing, could have been a little longer to allow it to breathe. But overall, I had such a great time watching Superman on the big screen, and this is probably one of the best comic book movies we've had in years.
I would agree with that. Like it's something that a big thing for me in my ranking is rewatchability. Do I want to go back and dive into it? And the answer for this is 100% yes. Like I want to go back and watch it again now that I've seen the film. I want to go back and look at some more of the layers and the things that I can nitpick. And that's a good thing for me for a film is like I want to go back and see what I may have missed, see if I was so hyper focused on the story and how everything was working to kind of pick up on some of the subtle nuances that people like to throw into their films and look for some of those Easter eggs that I'm not necessarily looking for in my first watch of it and paying as deep enough attention to look for, oh, this is this obscure reference to a comic book here. I can do that on my second watch.
And there's a lot of voice cameos in here that
100%.
You may not have recognized, because there's so many people from Marvel and DC that did voices or appearances in here that you may not, you probably gloss over on the first watch.
Sure, and that's the point of me going back and watching it a second time is to kind of pick up on some of those subtleties that I didn't see because I am so hyper-focused on the story that it's trying to tell and, making mental notes while we're watching it and things like that because, we're going to talk about it here. But, man, it's just you could feel the energy of positivity coming out of the theater when people were done watching it that you don't always get coming out of a film because sometimes you go, I don't really know how I felt about it yet. I need to go take it. You just felt an overwhelming sense of positivity.
You tell our entire theater had a lot of fun.
Yeah, like it just had a great time. The laughs made people laugh. Everybody loves Crypto coming out of it. Like maybe not everybody, but most people have a generally favorable, positive look on Crypto. Crypto is very chaotic.
We had a few kid reactions too, because there's just a couple things that happened in Crypto and other things you hear a kid like, oh no, screaming out in the theater. Like they even, and that's what's important too, like those of us who've been with Superman for a while, of course, the character has been around since the 1930s, 1940s and stuff. That, and of course, the first Superman movies were in the 70s. That you can have various opinions on it, but you got to realize too that not only is this supposed to be for the long-term fans, this is to try to get new fans as well, to get the youth that Man of Steel and other stuff may have been a little too grown up for that generation. This is a Superman that's made for everybody to be able to watch and enjoy. There's some language or some violence and everything else, but it's made to, because it's got to try to capture the youth. It's got to try to capture the 8, 9, 10-year-olds all the way up through the 50, 60, 70-year-olds who've been with it from almost the beginning. Like it's there's some stuff that's for us and there's some stuff for the kids as well. So you've got to look at it that way. But yeah, I left the theater thinking, all right, do I go back and am I coming back to the theaters to watch this? Because like, when can I find time to get back to theaters? Because I kind of want to come see it in theaters again because I had that much enjoyment out of it.
I love that too. And I had the same thoughts for myself. I'm like, man, if I could carve out time at like a Saturday morning or, something like that, to go just check it out again and just go and enjoy it and have fun with it. But, I would be remiss if I didn't, before we move on to our next review, one of my favorite scenes in this is the Guy Gardner scene where he goes to the front lines of the battle and he goes to help save the kid, and his use of the lantern there where he's taking off all of these guys, and the object that he manifests with his lantern is just a big middle finger to kind of just get going on that. It was just so funny and so on brand for what we know we're going to get from Guy Gardner moving forward. It was just so, I don't know why that made me laugh the entire time. I'm just because you think of sometimes your brain, when you're like, oh, the power of a ring means you can manifest literally whatever you could think of, and I'm like, that's pretty on brand for that character. But I was that feels like something I would do as a petty person, to just kind of all right, here's something to do it, just throw up the gesture. And
there's only one scene of Guys that kind of overwrote that scene for me, and it was one that it was a background. You have Lois and Clark kind of having a moment in the background. You've got this big creature being fought by the Justice Gang, because it's at that point everyone's like, well, we're not really trusting a Superman. Is he a criminal? Is he against us? And so the Justice Gang is taken on. You've got Guy Gardner, who just forms a giant baseball bat, and you just see a big green baseball bat beating an alien creature over. I was laughing so much at that. It's that absurdity. It's something you don't have to take that seriously. It can be silly and quirky and funny. Even if some of the silliness doesn't work all the time, it can be a lot of fun. That silliness, Mr. Terrific and Guy Gardner stole a lot of scenes, and then it was well worth it, because they did add, Mr. Terrific added a little humor just of how stoic and how straight-laced he is with everything, and very serious how he is in his response. He takes offense if you say something like this, especially when they're getting his spaceship and the door is opening very slowly, and that's a actual garage door from the museum center stuff, but he's just takes it so serious when Lois says something off-putting, I'm sorry. But yeah, there were such fun, memorable moments like that from Superman, but also from the cast. Guy Gardner got to have, because we really haven't got past Ryan Reynolds, the Green Lantern, out there. The Snyderverse was supposed to have one. We got a little bit in the Snyder cut, but we didn't. We really haven't had a Green Lantern done well in live action. We had Ryan Reynolds' movie that was very panned by everybody, including him himself.
Sure.
And so now we've got, it's not Hal Jordan, it's Guy Gardner, but we got a fun Green Lantern that shows all the ridiculous ways that he can use his ring, because he's blocking out windows, and he's forming middle fingers and baseball bats, and he's putting a mask over top of the kaiju to keep it from trying to bite Mr. Terrific and stuff. It's
a muzzle.
That's muzzle. That's my brain was like, what's that called? Okay, it's a muzzle. My brain just stopped braining for a little bit, which happens often. It stops braining.
It's fine. But I want to say something controversial here. And I know the internet's going to have a field day with this, and you can make this a clip.
Just going to make a clip,
put it out there, and I want to see what kind of comments you get. Guess what, guys? You're allowed to have a good time at the movies. I know that's crazy. You don't have to hate watch things. It's crazy. You can actually go in and have fun and have a good time. I know that's a controversial take, but guess what you're going to do if you watch this? You're going to probably have a good time if you have any type of sense of humor.
Stuff.
Yeah, and I can't stand that. I can't stand the whole, well, it has to be this way or I'm not going to like it.
It's not your character.
Get out of that, man. You don't own it. You don't own the rights to it. You're not doing what you want with it. If you think you could do better, write your own. You know what I mean? Try to get it sold and get it made. And if you make $1 billion off it,
good job.
Hats off to you. But you're allowed to go have a good time. That's what this is. This film is a good time. Stop taking everything so freaking serious. It's not that serious, guys. It's about a guy wearing red underwear on a blue suit.
But if we do that in public, we get arrested.
Right.
It's okay if it's Superman.
It's a guy flying around shooting lasers out of his eyes and punching things really hard. It's not that serious, guys. Calm down. It can mean a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it's not that serious.
I can enjoy dark comic book movies and stuff as well. Still, a lot of people don't know Road to Perdition was a comic movie, and it's a fantastic, dark comic book movie that's grounded in reality, and it's so well done. Even like 300th graphic novel, that's it's for the most part it's not realistic, but it's grounded and it's in its reality and stuff, like taken very serious, dark, gritty, rated R, bloody and stuff. There's places for those to happen. The Snyderverse had its time. It's time for something new, and you don't have to hold on to it. You can still go back and watch all of we will both agree. Henry Cavill got a short end of the stick with it. Like, he got one Superman movie. His next one was a Batman and Superman movie that was neither a Batman movie or a Superman movie. And then he got the Justice League team up before everyone was really introduced. Like, he got the short end of the stick. 100%. He physically was one of the biggest, powerful looking Superman we've ever had. But it's not James Gunn's fault that Superman didn't get his time. Yeah. He could have brought Henry back, but then if he brought him back in this bright, colorful, then they would be complaining like, well, why'd you change the Superman? Like, there was no winning about being able to keep Henry Cavill's Superman going anymore. Like, it was, unfortunately, met its end. Of course, he showed up at the end of Black Adam and everyone's excited, and I love seeing him as Superman, but his time had run out. Just like, as much as I love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and stuff, he got his 3 films and moved on to Andrew. I loved Andrew in it, but his films weren't very good.
Sure.
And then Tom Holland has been great as Spider-Man, and we got some nostalgia and got to bring some of those back and stuff. But they each brought something different and their own to it, and that can be exactly what this is. This is, David's the 12th Superman. All of them were different.
Yeah, every single one.
Every single one of them been different. Enjoy it. You don't have to gatekeep it. You don't have to say you hate it just because it's not what you were expecting. Superman's story has been told in so many different ways, from light to dark and everything in between. This is a Superman comic book movie that feels like Superman ripped from the pages and brought onto the big screen.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the positive feedback that we're seeing, and I'm super excited to see how it does, and hopefully it kicks off big things for DC, because, man, they could use a turnaround and a comeback. That's something they could use really heavily, and I hope people give this film a chance. I really do, because, like you said, we had a ton of fun with it. It's a really solid comic book movie, man. I can't put it any simpler than that. Like, if you're a fan of comics and the tone of comics, if you're a fan of Superman and you don't like this film, I don't know what to tell you. Like, the character of Superman, and you
read Superman.
The comics, like, this is almost a quintessential type of Superman that has been portrayed for decades now, and it's one of the more authentic versions of Superman that we've seen, and I'm super excited to see where he goes next and what they do moving forward, because there are some fun things on the horizon for DC. Will they all be hits? Time will tell, but I think they're off to a good start with this one and off on a good foot, so we'll see where the future of DC and Superman go from here.
Yes, Superman is in theaters now. Go check it out. If you had any interest at all of checking it out, don't let the hate that's flowing through the internet persuade you. Don't even let us with our positivity persuade you. Make your own opinion is what we say. The reviewers who are paid for it, for those who are doing a podcasting and doing it in different ways, we're sharing how it feels personally to us and looking at it as a whole, but it shouldn't be the end-all be-all. Like, we were positive about it. We both gave it an 8.5. You may give it a 7. You may give it a 10. My oldest daughter, who went with us, gave it a 10 out of 10. She absolutely loved it because she wasn't nitpicking every little thing like I nitpicked a little bit more than she did. She just went in and had fun with it. Like, if you have interest in it, go see it so you can form your opinion. If you didn't end up not liking it after you saw it for legitimate reasons and not just because it's not Henry Cavill, I'm sorry you didn't enjoy it, but you got to at least go make your own opinion on that by seeing it and not spreading vitriol everywhere without ever seeing anything but a trailer.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more. To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio room on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.